Okay, so I feel the Anunnaki around me, and it's like I feel Anki because he's always here, and then I feel Ninma. She she was actually her story is like really interesting because she was a Syrian that actually incarnated as an Anunnaki to try and steer the Anunnaki in the right direction while they were working with the Galactic Federation. And then also Phil Inanna. Um, just interesting that she's here because she was like a lot more. She's one of the darker ones, so I'm surprised that she's here, I guess.
Does anyone that's there want to step forth and say hello or do an introduction before we ask some questions?
Yeah, so I'm just asking Anki if there's anything that he wants to show me today. Sorry, he's like telling me like 10 things at once. So I'm like asking him what is the most important. Okay, so today I guess our biggest message is like the importance of feeling powerful. So I know in my last couple videos, like I've talked about the Anunnaki and the role that they played here. So now we're going to talk about more why it's even important to feel powerful and how we can use our three lower chakras or our lower emotions to create the best reality for us. So the even though it doesn't feel like it, the most beautiful gifts that the Anunnaki gave us are our lower emotions. And it doesn't feel like this sometimes, but this is our greatest gift because we have the lower emotions and the higher emotions. And so the amount of evolution that we are able to create in one lifetime on Earth is incredible compared to any other planet. And that was like what this peace treaty of Earth was all about. It was like catapulting people into a place where their souls could just reach such a higher evolution in one lifetime. So today we're going to go through like the different lower emotions and talk about how they can be used as your superpower. So I guess if you want to start with the solar plexus, so let's say if you start to like feel fear, um, you can ask yourself like, why am I feeling this fear? What in my environment is making me afraid? And is this fear in my head or is it an actual or is it something that is in my actual environment making me feel this fear? So this feeling of fear is so important to tap into, especially at this time, because we're being penetrated by fear every single day just by like walking outside. So especially during this time, like watching the news and things like that, they really want you to be afraid because they want you to manifest um they want you to manifest the world as they want it. So we're just saying that it's time to like release this fear and step into your power and use your solar plexus, because like since you have these lower emotions, you can really tap into your lower three chakras and understand how to transmute this energy. So you have this beautiful gift of like, how can I turn this fear into not anger, but like passion? How can you turn when you feel afraid and you realize that it's more like just a mental way to try to instill you with fear? How can you use that to step into your power and say like, no, this is not okay? Because that is what the world needs right now. Another one is like if you go into your safe role, if you're feeling anxious, how can you turn and transmute that anxiety into motivation? Like we all have, especially like in your spiritual awakening, we all have this spiritual anxiety of like, we're not waking up fast enough. Why didn't we wake up sooner? We have to save the world. So instead, how can you transmute this anxiety to step into your spiritual power? So, like, how can you use this anxiety as motivation to heal yourself and to be a role model for others? Um, and then your root, like your safety and security. So, like we were talking about fear, but your safety. So, um, once you get past your basic needs, once your basic needs are met, is there something making you feel unsafe? What is making you feel unsafe, and how do you change that for your highest and greatest good? So, like, is this a past life that needs to be healed? Is this some kind of trauma that needs to be healed that you're storing here? So, since you have these lower emotions, it's like they're trigger points of like, they can tell you exactly what you need to change in your life if you listen to them. And that's why you can like reach such a high evolution on this planet. So if you get really good, once you like clear all the emotions out of your body, you can get really good at listening to the emotions that are coming up and using them to like navigate you through this reality for your highest and greatest good.
Right. So it's kind of like the emotions, and I can appreciate the fact that they have provided us with these lower emotions, because we didn't essentially come in here to just float around and um not do anything. We came here to master emotions, and so we have to have those emotions to be able to master them. So I can understand and appreciate those. um what other tools, like what other things can they do in the daily life besides checking in with the emotions? Is there anything that you recommend as far as different food to eat, meditation, water, anything, any other tips that can help us with transmuting those energies?
Um, so feeling powerful. So, and that like body and body movement. So, like, how can we move this energy throughout our bodies? So, um, Anunnaki, they just, it's not even that they had superpowers, it's that they really understood the elements and that everything is energy. So, like, to humans, it's felt like they had these superpowers, but we have all these same gifts because we are an aspect of the Anunnaki. We just have to learn. Once you learn how to move energy and you learn more that like we are all one and that we can alchemicalize our reality into anything that we want, that's how we begin to see these superpowers in our life. So he's saying like to work with these gifts that you have. Um, and as these densities release, like you will see people begin to have all these incredible spiritual gifts that, so he's giving me a picture of like Thor, like or like all of these um a lot of our superhero movies, it's like we're based off of the Anunnaki, but really they just understood the elements and how they worked, and that is can be us. But when it comes to like these emotions and everything, it's really important not to store them in our body. So if we get angry, like just separate yourself and like start throwing punches. Like you have to get that anger out of your body. Or like if you feel scared, if something like scares the shit out of you really fast, like just go by yourself and start shaking. Like you have to shake it out of your body. And if you see bears, like bears actually do this in their environment. A lot of animals do this in their environment. So if that like fight or flight response gets triggered in that animal and they have to like run away from danger, you'll see them kind of like shake it off once they know they're safe. And that's so that they don't stay in that fight or flight mode. So I guess like what he's showing now is like the problem with humans right now is that they're staying in their fight and flight mode for way too long. And that is like what's causing their bodies to like I'm just seeing like really dense bodies. Like it's causing them to hold all of this density within them because we haven't learned how to just shake it out.
Yeah, and then you hold that energy, that density, and then you anticipate that everything is going to end up bad, and then everything does end up bad because essentially now you've manifested in that now moment for everything to go bad, right? Like, so I could see how we get trapped. So I hear you saying like it's about checking in. It's about checking in with the story that your brain's telling you. Am I in fact really in danger, or is this a story that my brain's telling me? And then that allows you, by checking in, to be in the present moment, to actually be in tune with that, what's actually going on. Am I correct?
Yeah, and then he's also telling me that like um this is a extremely important time to learn how to transmute these emotions because even though a much higher timeline for the earth has been fully anchored in, there's still a lot of density that needs to be released and a lot of things that will have to happen to wake up the collective so that we can actually before we can manifest these things. So he's showing me like he's telling me like the world is about to get really fucking angry. And it's okay because so much has happened to the collective that it's time, like that's what's going to take the for the collective to stand up and unite. But instead of it like being super fucking angry about it, about like how they've lied to us and the system in place, and instead of acting from he's showing me people like riot and flip over cars and be violent, instead of acting like that way, how can we transmute this anger for passion? Like how can we become passionate for change and passionate to unite with one another?
Right. I feel like that has been what's going on with Maui right now. And they have said like the old Lemurian and Atlantic timelines, like that's the point of Maui right now, where people are actually shining that light on the systems that no longer serve humanity and no longer are protecting humanity. And they're doing it in such a way that is just, when I see the stories, it's so beautiful because these communities are just, you can tell they love each other. You can tell like they're united together. They want not just themselves to thrive, but their brothers and sisters to thrive. So, I mean, is that what we're going to see more of coming forth? Like, is that what it anchored in? Was that type of standing up for against the systems?
Yeah, and he's just telling me like, and take no shit and don't believe, like, use your own discernment, and like it's just time to like use your own critical thinking skills and tap into your heart. So he's telling me like he's showing me like all the games that they're playing. Like it's like rather Maui was an incident or it was on purpose, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like don't get wrapped up in the stories that they're trying to tell you. Like all you see in the news is like, oh, the police commissioner got fired because he didn't send help fast enough. Like don't get wrapped up in those stories. The only thing that you need to worry about is how do we unite for these people? How do we care about these people? How do we come together after this event? And how do we prevent it from happening again in pure light and love? And after these events, like rather it was on purpose or it had a higher and greater purpose, we need to use these events to unite with each other and become passionate for change. Because if we don't become passionate for change, then that is what is detrimental to us as a species. And he's just saying, like, don't let them also like don't let them what's the word? Oh, don't let them distract you also. Like they put all of these distracting things in front of you, like your cell phone and TikTok and Facebook. Um, but and you can use these things to good, like for good. Use these things for community, for like spiritual businesses where you can gain so much information. Just be careful where you get your information from. These can be very helpful tools, but just use them as a tool. Don't let them distract you from life because that is also what they want. So it is time to just be consciously aware all day of what you're putting into the world and what you're putting through your body, through your five senses, because you are your five senses.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And we had a couple questions from the viewers about how do you live so long?
So it's not even that we live so long, it's more that human beings were programmed to only live for about 120 years. And this was because um sorry, he's showing me things. So this is there's a few reasons for this. So most extraterrestrials, I mean I want to say most, but it really depends, but they live much much longer than you do on Earth. If you look at it towards Earth years, I mean it gets pretty hard because um most extraterrestrials are higher dimensional beings where time is much different. So it's kind of hard to explain. But if we're explaining this to you from just the 3D perspective, because our planet is a 3D planet as well. So we live about 800 to 1,000 years. That's like comfortable for us. And humans were designed to live that long as well initially. But what happened was when we were playing around with the genetics of humans, they were built to be a slave race in the beginning because that is what the Anunnaki needed them for. And they didn't want humans to feel, they wanted humans to not realize their power, or they wanted humans to feel less than gods. So it's like they wanted the Anunnaki to look up to them as gods, and they had to place the worship gene within them because worshiping something outside of yourself had to be integrated into a lower vibrational society. So we that is when the change for the human being went from 800 years to 120 years. And this was also allowed by the Galactic Federation of Light too, because um, these lower vibrational things, and we've talked about this in our other videos, had to be integrated into a lower consciousness. So as your consciousness raising, you will see human beings live longer, and we are beginning to uh, reactivate the DNA that allows you to live longer and healthier. So you will begin to see people live longer and healthier, and that eventually humans will live just as long as the Anunnaki, because um, it's not even that you are as powerful as the Anunnaki, it is that you will be more powerful than the Anunnaki, because you are a vision of the Anunnaki and so much more. So you're a vision of the Anunnaki, plus you're a vision of like the Pleiadians, the Octurians, the Lyrans. You have the Syrians, you have all of this DNA within you, and you will be incredible. It's just getting there and learning how to integrate all of these things.
So you mentioned you're on a 3D planet. Why are you not at a higher dimensional planet?
So since the the Anunnaki can tap in, it's like they can tap in mentally into higher dimensions, but their lower emotions anchor them into a 3D reality. So this is why Anunnaki are very good at like even Anunnaki that are incarnated here as humans, they're those humans that are very good at like navigating through the 3D reality because their planet is a 3D reality.
Okay. Do they want to ascend further than that? Or are they comfortable where they are?
There is positive Anunnaki that have like ended up on Sirius and other places around the star systems where they are able to ascend and they're happy to ascend, but there are also negative Anunnaki that enjoy their 3D reality. So it really just depends.
Okay. Well, we just want to send and ask for the collective to just send love and healing and I mean, gratitude to the Anunnaki for the roles that they played here on Earth to help humanity with the ascension. I think it's important to not give power to the villain role, but to give gratitude for the role that you did play. So thank you. And we just ask for that love to be sent to you guys. And then we have one final question for you all. How tall are you?
So he's showing me like I'm getting some like that were really tall, like and really big, that were probably like 14 feet tall. And then I'm getting a vision that like most of them were probably about 8 to 9 feet tall. And they were very like muscular and well built. And they were like, I guess somebody asked about like their archetype also. So their archetype is just like very strong and powerful. Like they're very in their power. Um, but honestly, like they're not that much different than we are. Like we think of them as gods because in mythology, that's what they created, or it was meant to be seen that they were gods, but they're not that much different from us. Like they had all their problems. And if you read the Lost Book of Enki, you will hear all of their problems. Like they sound just like human problems. And but just the biggest difference is like they love feeling powerful, like they are in their power. And the biggest difference is that they don't have those higher vibrational emotions, so they are more in their lower vibrational emotions. That's the biggest difference. So if you want to look at like amount of evolution and transcendence, like we are greater than them in that aspect, and we will become everything that the Anunnaki is, but more.
Yay. Well, um, any other messages from you all before we end this session?
So Ninma is like I said, she was a Syrian that came here from the Galactic Federation to um incarnate as an Anunnaki to like help see the Anunnaki and watch them pretty much why they filled out these contracts. So she's just saying like just be kind to everyone and be understanding of everyone because you have no idea who they really are. So even sometimes like these bad people in our lives, they come in and they play this role, right? So like we have a soul family and we're all chilling up like up in space and or in the higher dimensions and you're like, oh, well, I really want to learn this lesson. And somebody from your soul family is like, wow, I'll play that role for you. And we can go down there together and you will learn that lesson. So, like, say this person from your soul family plays like that narcissistic mom in your life. And it seems like in this life it's really difficult, but it's all for a higher and greater purpose. Like that person's a part of your soul family and you've lived so many lifetimes with them, and they're actually doing that for you in pure light and love. So it's like that's who the Anunnaki were to us. It's like they did that for the highest and greatest good, but it just felt really hard up until now.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate that, and I appreciate you all, the Anunnaki, and because you guys are just source having experience too. So at the end of the day, you guys are just as much a part of source that we are. So why do I not? I mean, I guess we need a villain to propel the evolution, right? And to propel the experience. But I feel like when we start seeing that everyone is an aspect of source, an aspect of God, that's why I asked about if you guys wanted to ascend higher to a higher dimension, because I want to use my free will to ask for you guys to be able to do so, because I believe you guys deserve the opportunity just as much as we do to ascend. So I really appreciate that message, and I appreciate you guys. And the villain could be the hero in the next, saga of this experience that we're all experiencing. So I think that helps in taking away judgment towards other human beings or other beings.
Yeah, so I guess that's the biggest lesson is like, how do we release this judgment? So even when we see like, so I guess something that came up in my session the other day was like, there's actually a lot of rappers here that are here for a higher and greater purpose to unite like real like kids in poverty and things like that. But there it's also very easy for like a somebody like from the outside to look to that and judge it and be like, how could that be for anyone's higher and greatest good? So it's like, how do we release this judgment to just understand that everyone is here to have their own experience and their own perspective?
And I think that's just, coming back to a place of unconditional love for self and realizing that their choices aren't a reflection of your worth. And when you have unconditional love for self, you stop equating everything to your worth.
Yeah, so sorry, go ahead.
No, that's just what my human monkey brain would respond with right now. But I mean, it's a journey, right?
Yeah, so like what I did, so one way to like start really releasing that judgment of others, because we're all trained to be judgmental. Like we grow up in a society that like compares us to others, where we just judge, or it's like very materialistic. So we're always comparing what we have versus what other people's have. So when I first went through my spiritual awakening, I started like really watching the thoughts that I was having during the day. I realized that every time I got onto the subway, all I would do was judge people. Like I would get onto the subway and be like, "Oh, those shoes! Like, her shirt. What is she doing? Like, what is he doing? What is happening?" And I got to the point where I was like, what am I doing? Like, why do I even care what this person is doing? So what I would do is I would like when I got onto the subway, I would, if I started to have like those judgmental thoughts, I would stop it as fast as I could. I would look at that person and like say something I loved about them. So I'd be like, oh, her shoes are beautiful. Like I would change it immediately. And it probably took about like a month of really catching myself doing it. But by the end of the month, it's like I was embracing it. It's like I would see people dressed like really crazy, and I'd be like, yes, that person is fully expressing themselves. Like, I love that they're wearing that and doing that.
Right. And I think the newer generation is fun with that too. They just are more accepting of all, and I think that's a great gift that we have. Well, before we say goodbye to our lovely Anunnaki brothers and sisters, are there any final messages?
No, that is all for today.
Thank you all. We love you very much, and we appreciate what you've done for humanity.
Thank you.